And the question is very simple. I'm just going to let the introduction text itself. Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome, welcome, everybody. This is the question of the day. You know, people are asking this question, does God exist? And maybe you're asking the same question at this very moment yourself. Does God truly exist? But is that really the legitimate question to ask? Depending on the person you're asking. But here's what I have to say. The thing is, you are breathing right now as we're having this conversation. The reason you can hear me and the reason you can see what it's happening is because you're breathing. It's true about God. If you can breathe, therefore, it is true that God exists. It's simple as that. No more, no less, if that makes sense. But the real question is whether God, it's not about whether God exists, because when you ask that question, usually there is a deeper question underlining it. Is it Sunday today? If you ask the question, is it Sunday today? The reason you're asking whether it is Sunday, because there's an underlining question. That means there's something about Sunday that you want to know about. I hope that makes sense. Does God exist? Is a superficial question. It's a question that people bring it, but there's truly an underlining question. And today, I believe the real underlining question is to be, how do you recognize and the value that it adds for that existence? Just like I said, is it Sunday today? If I'm asking, is it Sunday? Most of you would say, yeah, Alpha, it is Sunday. So I am going to answer not just that, is it God exist or does God exist, but I'm going to try to address the underlying question that is truly bringing this question at heart. Again, I am Alpha Mshihiri, and I'm excited to be here. I am actually a coach by professional, and I do mostly relationship. But relationship, as much as seen, it's more about maybe people are in a relationship, about marriage and all that stuff. To me, I consider that life is all relational. We are living being because we are relational. We are relating to the things that we are experiencing. If we were not relating to them, we would not experience. That's my place I'm standing. So the scripture tells us, as you think in your heart and in your mind, so you are. Meaning that if you are relating to the thing in question, so you become the very thing you're relating yourself to. And that's the reason why I consider everything is a relationship. And so therefore, that being the case, today we are talking about different level of relationship. And this is nothing but the school of spiritual elite. You know, there are many things and there are many schools that you can attend. The school of not heart. I mean, there's all kinds of schools that are out there, and the school of real life. But today, this is the school of spiritual elite. And I call it the school of spiritual elite because we are examining the deeper questions of the scriptures and unveil its mystery. Apostle Paul said, do not be like in the days of Moses when their eyes were veiled, meaning they could not see the glory of God, but through Moses. Today, as each and every Sunday that I show up here, I am here to unveil the spiritual truth. And it's not about unveiling only, because Apostle Paul said the Spirit gives life. So it's about unveiling the mystery of the scriptures, but also empower you with tools and resources that you can utilize to beautify your life. If you're in for it, just give me a thumbs up. Give me something that whatever you are watching it from to say that you are in agreement with what I'm saying. But the question that I'm answering today, does God exist? And I said, I am not that is the superficial question. The real question is, why does he exist? And what is the relevance of God's existence? And that's what we are about to talk about here today. If you're in for it, hang on tight, because I'm going to reveal some few things that I think will add value in the week to come so that you can enjoy the week as it comes better than you would have enjoyed or the one you enjoyed previously. And if you're on board for that, let's make it happen. So here, I am making a bold belief. As long as you can breathe, you know air exists, whether you admit it or whether you have seen it. The fact that you're watching this or you're listening or you're scrolling somewhere, it is the mere fact that air exists. Because we know it is the air, as we've given it the name of it, it allows us to take in oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. So how do you do this? How does this work? I mean, I say carbon dioxide, I might not be correct there, but you are inhaling oxygen and it works, it energizing oxygen. It kind of, its particles gives you energy inside of you. It's consumed and broken down and you get this energy. That's what you can breathe. You are breathing. That means air exists in itself. The mere fact that you are existing, you're watching this, air exists. And so it is true about God. The mere fact that we are wondering about walking and living life as each and every day, it is true that God exists. So what is actually the issue then? Why we get into this conversation and why even this question came up? In fact, this is the question. People when ask questions, I kind of rank them up. It is one of the questions that has been have highest rank, which means a lot of people somewhere in the back of their mind, they have this question. Why they're asking, I can only imagine or assume. But the real reason, like I said earlier, if I ask, is this today Sunday? It is because I have an underlying intent of knowing if it is Sunday, there must be something about Sunday that I want to confirm so I can do. And so I assume it is true about this question when it comes up as many times as it is. But the bottom line is whether you admit in the mere fact that God exists or not, the mere fact you are existing, it's the evidence of the existence of God. The question usually, I don't think if it's whether God exists, what God are you referencing to? You know, as I mentioned, my name is Alpha. I was born in Tanzania, East Africa, grew up there. So in Tanzania, the way they will spell my name is A-L-F-A, Alpha. You can just pronounce the same way, Alpha. But how you spell it is A-L-F-A. When I came to the United States, whenever I tell people Alpha, they write it A-L-P-H-A. When you pronounce it, still Alpha. But the spelling now has changed. So they're not calling a different name. They're just arranging the letter differently, consistent with their tonation, how they pronounce it, how they speak, the culture and everything else. So it gives as if it's a different name, A-L-P-H-A, but it's the same name as A-L-F-A. And I've gone to some areas where I've seen they pronounce it, they spell it as A-L-P-H-E-R, Alpha, but it's the same name as A-L-F-A, A-L-P-H-A, and so is A-L-P-H-E-R. And maybe there are many variations that people will kind of pronounce my name. But in reality, they are speaking of the same name. And this is actually the mystery that we find it in this religion world where we are speaking of God, Allah, Buddha, Brahmian or Christian, as if it's a different name. We are speaking of the same, but using different pronunciation or language. Just as probably most of you, your name, it has been butchered in different ways by different people from different background and an experience. And so therefore, they are not calling anybody different. It's the same person. It's just using different arrangement of letter. They are calling your name. They might have spelled it differently. And that is the beauty when you understand. So when you talk about whether God exists, the real question is, which God are you referencing? It's the same God. It's just we take great pride. One will say it's Allah, and they take great pride on calling him Allah, while the rest are calling him God and take great pride. They will kill for anybody who does not call their God God. While others will call Yahweh, and they will throw stones at you for not calling their God Yahweh when you're speaking to them. And you go to another one, they will say it is Brahmian. Another one will say it's Christian. And each and every one of them, they're speaking of the same being. The same being that we all call. So I just want to throw some few things here. Humanity has always reached for source. just as spelled it differently. Allah in Islam says he is Allah, the one. That's what it means, Allah. He is the one. Quran 112, I believe, verse Surah 1. While Exodus, Moses encountered God and he was told, I am that I am. It's the same thing that when they says the one, I am that I am, it's just speaking of the one. There are no two, there are no three. So in an essence, we are all talking about the same being. And science have thrown its own curve in the equation where it says energy is forever the same. You cannot destroy energy, you cannot add, you cannot create. Energy exists because it's energy. Interesting. I am that I am. The one, Quran tells us. The Bible, the Old Testament says, I am that I am. I am that I am is the same thing as saying the one, the only one that exists. Isn't the same thing as the science says you cannot destroy energy, you cannot create energy, you cannot modify energy. Energy exists and it is forever present. That is science. And I believe it's the best definition of describing God. So an atheist will say, whatever they're going to say, they believe in this, they don't believe in God. If you believe in one, if you don't believe in one, you believe in one, you believe on something. I don't believe in anything. You believe on something for not believing in anything. But they're all believing in anything. Somebody else will say it's a universe. What is the universe? It's this collective energy that has made everything there is to be made in this world. So in essence, we're all talking about the same God. So I just want to throw another example. I grew up in Tanzania, I said earlier. And we used to eat a particular type of apple. That's why I was accustomed to this type of apple I was eating all the time. I came to United States, budget was low, so you always go into the cheaper stores. And most of the time, those days, I remember, there was this very reddish apples. And I've heard people call it New York apples, whatever you want to call it. But those are the apples that I became accustomed. So I said, oh, okay. So in Tanzania, we have this type of apple. In US, they have this type of apple. I thought, in fact, that was the only apple existed in the United States. I was living in the city. I moved to the suburbs. When I moved to the suburbs, and I found myself surrounded by apple orchards. So I'm like, this is curious. I'm going to be eating apples fresh from the tree, just like I remember when I was growing up in Tanzania. So first time I remember I went to this apple orchard that is close to my house and my kids' school, and I started buying apples. At the beginning of the season, my first time I went there, I saw there were like two type of apples, and none of them were similar to the one that was on the store that I used to buy when I used to live in the city. And I'm like, okay, this is very interesting. So, and as the season continued, before the end of the season, there were about 20 selection of different apples, and they were given different names. And majority of other names, I never seen them in the store. And I'm like, wow, there's a Sweet 16, there was a Fuji, there's Fiji, whatever. There was all kind of apples. And I'm like, wow, how many apples are there? And each and every one of them have been given a different name. And each and every one of them have a unique taste and flavor. But they are all underlining apples. They bear the characteristic of an apple, despite of their nature that has made them uniquely differently. And this is true when we talk about God. Despite what pride you're taking, I can take and say, the apples from New York are the best. And I can say my Sweet 16 apples are the sweetest, they're the best. And we'll get into this argument that will take us nowhere because we're all talking about the apples. I want you to think about it. Because sometimes I think we don't take time to think. We argue. We get in passionately, but we bring out the best of our emotions. But truly, we are talking about the same God, just as we'll talk about the same apples. They might be different. And one person will say, I like the tart nature of this apple. And another will say, no, I like the sweetness of the other one. And the sweetness is the best of the all. And the other one will say the tart one is better. We're just kind of describing the uniqueness of each and every aspect. and the nature of the flavor that we have, but truly we are talking about the same apple. So, as I mentioned earlier, so it is true about God. We are all talking about this ability or this being, this existence that forever exists. It has no beginning, it has no end. And that is God. I am that I am. So he told Moses, and that will forever be my name. Name in Hebrew is the nature. In essence, God was saying, this is the nature that I am the one. And Isaiah comes and say, God says, I and God alone, I do all things. There is no other but one God. That's what Isaiah wrote. And that's what Quran says, the one. It calls it Allah. Said the one. So all of these groups, all these writings, they are referencing the same thing. Just like the apple, there might be different taste. And a tart apple might not be as flavorful to me or consumable. Maybe you gotta cook it. You might have it different. Say, I love to chew the tart one, but it doesn't make the apple itself a bad thing or not consumable for raw nature. It just means you have a different taste than I am, and I have a different taste than you are. That which is tasteful for me and it makes me feel comfortable, then it is right for me. And so it is true for you. So this argument of whether this one is good or bad makes no sense, and it doesn't take us nowhere, because in reality, it has never made anybody lives better. Show me a person who keeps arguing that their religion is better and if they have any better life. Actually, they're probably one of the bitter people you can ever find. More frustrated than ever, more confused each and every single day. So those type of conversation will never take us nowhere. And so therefore, I'm just going to kind of dive it more deeper on other aspect, because the answer is Allah, God, Brahman, Krishna, Buddhist, whatever you want to call it, Yahweh, they're one and the same. That's my definition. And I find it makes sense. I've read both of those books. I've read some of the Quran, and I looked at them, and as I analyze, it tells me the same thing. As I read the Bible, it tells me the same thing. As I read some Hindu books, they're telling me the same thing. As I read Buddhist, Taoism, and all of them, they are all speaking of the same concept that me and you and others call it different names. And so in that case, does God exist? And I ask you the question, can you breathe? If you can, then there must be air. And if there is air, so God exists. We cannot speak of, we see the effect of the air, but nobody have ever caught you. Say, I caught air and I have it in my pocket. It exists. It is forever present. And so is God, he is forever present. Okay. So the question is, how do you know that he really exists? We know, like I said, we know that when as I looked outside here, I can see the branches of the trees are dancing left and right. There's a nice rhythm that is going on outside there. And the fact that I'm talking, I can attest to the fact that air exists. So the question is, how do you know that God exists at all? God, as it is in the scriptures, it is the one, the only one. Quran tells us the same thing. And Moses in the book of Genesis, actually Exodus, God says, I am that I am. There is no other. I am that I am. That's the full stop. There is no, there's two other. Nope, I am that I am. It's if I show up and you say, oh, who is Alpha? I say, I am that I am. It's only me. There is no another Alpha of this caliber, nature, and composition. There's only one. And that's what the scripture tells us. And so is Quran and every other book of the religion group. There's one. There's only one. No matter how we argue, no matter how we slice it, there's only one. But then how do you know that exists? There is life, because God is life. I am the one, meaning that it is forever present, and its present allows us to exist. I'll take a very simple example. I'm sitting here, I have cameras, I have microphone, and there's a light, there's screen somewhere there. So if, an example here, Each and every screen requires power. Each and every device I have here requires power, electricity. And electricity is the energy that feeds all of these things and make them work. And the mere fact that they are performing, they are active as your phone, as your device, whatever you're watching it from, it is an evidence that, guess what? Electricity exists. And those devices are powered so that they can perform their unique task. In absence of electricity or the power that powers those devices, guess what? None of them will function. So the mere fact that they exist, it is an evidence they are powered. And so it is true about life, because God is life. So the mere fact we are existing, we are breathing and walking and living, it is the presence of God. And this universe continue to animate, meaning that it is forever alive. And so therefore, that is the evidence that God exists. It is the evidence that God is the creative energy throughout each and every aspect of our lives. As John put it, the book of John, first chapter 1, it says, in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And there's nothing that was created except through the Word. Interesting. So the creation of everything we are seeing, from the little ants to every little thing that we've ever experienced in this world, it is an evidence of the creation or creative aspect of God. It might come in different form, just like the apples. But in all of it, it gives glory to God. As we're told in the scriptures, the heavens and the earth gives glory to God. It shows the awesomeness of God. So God is a constant principle, like the energy or being. Then what difference does it make for you personally? This is the question I believe many people are asking. Say, so what does it matter? If God exists, if God is real, what is so important for me? I think that's the most important question to each and every one of us. Where, okay, so Alpha, you're telling me this God exists, and it's okay. Let's you be right. But then what is the value? What is the importance for me? I am not going to talk about the judgment day and all of that day, because that's not my place. Maybe who speaks of that judgment day that is to come and God will judge you somewhere up there, they might have been there and they've seen God judging people. I haven't been it, so I am not going to speak to that, nor was I inspired on that particular value. So today we are talking about something. What is it for you to know this idea of God? I want to share something quickly. Most of you are very familiar with water. No matter where you are, you have seen water. You have drink it, you've showered, you've used it to clean something, clean yourself. So water is a very common fundamental thing we all know. And often, in many places, water is kind of especially in the Western world, you see that water is digged in the pipes and it shows up in our homes, and we might not even know how it gets there, but somehow it gets there. But the person who makes the water gets to where you are must understand the principles of water, because they know that water moves in a certain way, often and naturally water moves from a higher level to the lowest level. That's how water moves naturally. It doesn't mean it cannot move from lower to higher, but naturally it moves from from higher level to lower level, or higher elevation to a lower elevation. That is a natural movement of water. And that being the case, if I understand that, you see how beautiful that's going to be? Because if I'm dealing with water, and if I have to use water as a tool to move me around, I would look to an elevated level, and then it can take me to the lowest level. And if I have to go up using water, I know I have to use something else. So Most of the cities in Western world, especially in the United States, you're going to see the cities, they have tanks. And the tank is up there, but the source of water is bottom. So if water moves from highest level to lowest level, guess what? In order for them to fill up that tank, they have to have an external energy, some mechanism that will push the water up. And that knowledge makes things possible. It makes it easier for you to consume water. If those people didn't have that knowledge, it would be difficult for you to have water. Very, very much so. So the reason you have water in your home is because people understood the principle of water and they're using it for their advantage. That's the key. They are using it for their advantage. And if you don't know it, you won't be able to use. My son the other day my older son was going to a store to buy I call it kanzu in Swahili. I don't know what's in English, but it's those dress that Muslims wear. The white dress that you wear is just one piece. Both men and women wear the same thing, but of course women have other layers of things, but men will wear just one piece, a white piece, usually normally white or black. So he went to this because he was going to a mosque and he went to this place to buy one. And when he got to the store, he saw the store. I mean, the price was listed, and he figured he's pretty cool. He can get the best price. So he asked the price, and they said, "Oh, the price is on the item." He said, "Oh," and he tried to negotiate. And he bought it for a price that was lower than what that was listed there. And he went and met with the people that he was going to the mosque and accompanied with him. And they were like, "Oh, it's really nice. When did you get it?" He said, "I just bought it the other day." "How much you bought it?" And he mentioned the price. And one of the guys looked at him and said, "Oh my God, you could have just told me. I would have gotten you half of the price you paid." He did not have the understanding or the principle of conversation that he needed to have. So therefore, he could not benefit from getting the best price. He ended up getting the worst price. My younger son, on the other hand, he's in Egypt. He's studying abroad. And early on, he was frustrated when he goes to the market. There is no price list on items. So he doesn't know what is actually the actual price. And people will tell him different price in one moment. He said, "Okay, how much is that?" And if they give him a price and he's thinking about it, before he can make a decision, if it takes longer, that price will change 3 times or more. So he's like, "I don't know what is the actual price." Then I told him, I said, that is a different market. They see you look like a foreigner. So your price you are paying is different than a local person. And once he figured that out, so sometimes when he wants certain things, he sends friends that he have made who are local. They will go and buy it at a local price. And he have learned to speak the language. So when he goes to some other markets where they think maybe he's a foreigner, he speaks Arabic. And by doing so, because he have learned the principles, and so therefore he is using it for his advantage. And he's doing well because he figured how the market works. Otherwise, he will find himself being ripped off every single time. And it is not a surprise if you sit in a place in your life where you're uncomfortable, you feel uneasy with yourself, because you don't know the principles of God. Therefore, you cannot, because if it's true, which I believe it is, God is the animating principle behind each and everything in our lives. And if that is true, it also means if I want to transform my life or to experience life a little bit more better than the way I'm experiencing now, I have to understand the principle that will allow me to transform myself. But using the principle, otherwise I will frustrate myself. And the reason you are frustrated in life, whether in relationship, in finances, in every aspect of life, is because you have not understood the principle of God. And since you have not understood, you've been changing your life in a way that is inconsistent with those principles. So you keep hustling. And people love to call themselves hustlers, and it's okay. But if life is not meant to hustle, it's meant to be lived. And if you're not living, meaning that you're not finding joy in that which you are doing and life itself, it means that life is frustrating you. And if you don't know how to deal with it, then you will continue to frustrate yourself even further, and you will never get the full value of that what life offers. That's the principle. And that's the reason why this conversation becomes of critical importance. Simply because it allows you to adapt tools and resources that can afford you the opportunity to live life consistent with your interest. And you might say, Alpha, that makes no sense because I've been struggling. I said, no, listen. In the book of Jeremiah, God said, I know the plans that I have for you. You, not just me, everybody. I know the plans that I have for you, the plans to prosper you. I will not by any means speak to anyone who comes and say God is punishing us, because I do not want to hear that nonsense. Because the scriptures informs me very clearly, and I've scoured not only the scriptures within the Bible, but each and every aspect of other writings, and I could not find. And those who said they have found is because they misunderstood it. The truth is, your life matters. Your life worth more than the way you are living today. And not only that, it's worth more, you are equipped with the capacity to live life better than the best you've ever lived before. I don't care how far you've gone with your life, how well it has treated you. There is always better. I remember the first time I got my, before the cell phones were a thing, they used to have pagers, and there was payphone in each and every street almost, especially here in the United States. I remember those days. So you'll get a pager, beep, 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 it'll beep, and somebody will have a number which they're saying, I want you to call them. You go to the payphone, you pay, and you call that number that paged you. And that seems like it was the coolest thing, especially to have a pager, because somebody can page you and ask them to call them, and you just have to look for a payphone. It was the most amazing thing. You're like, oh my God. And people with the pager, they thought they were gods of the earth. They will walk with certain vibe. They got something, and they can be paged, and they can make a call in a pay call box. And that changed. I remember. And therefore came this little thing. I mean, it wasn't little, it was big, a device that you have in your hand. Now, no, somebody doesn't have to page you. They will call that thing and you can talk to them. And before, it was only about a conversation. You couldn't see a picture, you couldn't see anything else, but they come for talking, which served its purpose. And then, so people thought, man, this is the best technology there is. And to our surprise, it came a phone that have a little bit of screen. And then you can chat with people. You can see pictures. You can see, we were like, oh my God, this is amazing. Today, we have a device that does everything, and it's called a cell phone. It is what the computer used to do. Now the cell phone does everything and even more. And at a faster speed than the computer back then. Imagine that. So you can never put a ceiling in God. God is forever animating, expanding, evolving. So therefore, life, you cannot say, man, this is the best life and this is it. Then you're a dead person. Because every ceiling you reach, there is another ceiling to grow to. So your life worth more than what you have been told or what you have accepted to be true. And that's why it's important to have a conversation, because if God is a creative power, wouldn't you want to know how this creative power works so that you can tap into it and you can learn how to create your life consistent with your interest? You know, there's a statement in the scripture. It says, let's create man in our own image. And often that statement has been seen as a passive statement, something that has happened. If God is a creative power, that statement is forever playing in your life. So you are consistently creating according to your image. And what image is that? Is not the image of who you are as a person, but it's the image of the ideas that you hold true within your mind. And that is the power of knowing God and the principle that governs. So in Psalms 19:1, it says, the heavens declares the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hand. The heavens doesn't argue. It just teaches us that this creative aspect is forever and magnificently displayed in our lives. Not yesterday, not a month from yesterday, a month before, or whatever the time. It is every day playing out in our lives. It is showing us that which we are capable of. So if you're in pain, it is demonstrating that you are capable of bringing chaos in your own life. And then by knowing the principles, you can say, then I can create other than destroy or create chaos that I have. I'm going to create peace. And so therefore you go by using the same principle to bring about the peace in your own world. I hope you're getting that perspective. So does God exist? Yes, he does. I think we kind of got it out of the way. And regardless of what name you call that, a concept of God, it doesn't matter. The existence will forever be demonstrated in your life. Just if you passed away, if you die, it doesn't mean God dies. In fact, it's a further demonstration of its existence because it is continuing to evolve, even though your physical body have broken down, but your spiritual aspect continue to be present and forever grow. What it happens down the road is a conversation of another day, but you are forever an existence being because I'm dressed in this form. The spirit is within me, but I'm dressed in this form. This form can decay, can lose its ability to exist because it's made with physical matter, but the spirit within me will continue to grow, will forever exist because it is a spirit of the creative power. The reason you are able to create growth in your life is part of creation, meaning that you are creating cells and they do this and all that stuff, is because you have the element of life in you. And you are expressing that element of life through your body. So your cells multiply, they grow, they do all those things, and you grow up as a person. They do so because of the creative aspect within itself, which we call spirit, science call it energy, and whatever name you want to give it to it. That animating power is within you, and it causes you to animate as a physical being. So even though the physical aspect might dissipate, might fall apart, might break down and everything else and lose its ability to sustain itself through this animating power, the animating power does not cease to exist because it's part and parcel of every animating power that we are seeing. I hope that kind of makes sense. So that's God in a nutshell. It is that power that animates. There is no other but. And it is through that power we breathe. It is through that power we power our energy. Everything there is can never exist in absence of that animating power, the Spirit of God. Throughout ancient of time, we have given it different names, and it's rightly so. But now, it's time, once you know that, we set that question aside. Now, how do you benefit your life? Because if that animating power is within you, and its evidence is the fact that you can breathe air, you can walk, you can go about your day, then the question, how do you utilize the animating power to transform your life? And that question, I'm going to answer it very quickly but in the next episode, next week, you're going to have more information. We're building this as we go along. So it begins by recognizing. If you cannot recognize that you are the animating power itself, then you cannot utilize the power. If you keep arguing that there is no electricity in your house, even though there is a cable and the power and everything, you say there's no electricity just because you did not turn the light on, or just because the bill was not paid and the power was cut. It doesn't mean the electricity doesn't exist. It just means that it's not all the way through to your home, or it has been blocked in some form. So once you know that, you say, so how do I benefit from this? And I think that's the most important question when it comes to this conversation. We can lose ourselves in proving whether God exists or not. But I think it makes no difference if you can prove as such, but yet your life does not reflect as such. So by recognizing that God is the creative power, I am that I am, it means it is everything. That's what it means when you say, I am that I am. It means it's everything. There is nothing that is not. The most amazing person in the world is an expression of God. The most genius person you call in the world is an expression of creative God. The worst person in the world is an expression of the creative God, because God cannot be if it's not all. I gave an apple as an example. An apple have a particular flavor, it have a particular skin, and it has particular characteristics. And for it to be an apple, it must have those characteristics. Whether it's a sweet 16, it's a Fuji, it's whatever you want to call those type of apples. Give them whatever name. But as long as it bears those characteristics, it becomes an apple. You take one of it, it is no longer an apple, it becomes a pears. Because so in order for an apple to be an apple, it must contain all that is making an apple. For God to be God, and he says, I am that I am, it must be all. So we're told, or it is written, that I am the only God. I will give no credit to another. I give sunshine so as rain, sadness as well as joy, everything else, life as well as death. God is the animating power throughout each and everything. So when you have that conclusion, you say, okay, great. How do I take it from here? Jesus gave us a formula. He said, those who comes to my Father must come in spirit and in truth. Those who come to my Father must come in spirit and in truth. Let's unload that statement in a few seconds, in just a minute here, because the time is running out. Spirit. Most of you understand you have a general idea of what that statement says, but what does it do to you, and how can you utilize it to transform your life? Because if we are agreeing that this concept of God is the animating power in each and every aspect of our life, and there's nothing we can ever be or experience absent its presence. That's the first step. Once you come to that agreement, the next thing is now, what are the principles that work with it? Just so I give an example of water. There are principles that govern the movement of water. And when you understand those principles, you can apply them to your benefit. And this is also true when we're talking about God. So the first principle that Jesus put it out, and I believe it's the only principle. It is just said in different ways. He said, those who comes to my Father must come in spirit and in truth. The word spirit, it has many meanings, but the general consensus of spirit, it means that which animate. That which animate. In an essence, most scholars back in the day, spirit was synonymous to air, the ability to breathe. And air is that which animate. So when you take symbolic, spirit speaks of the ability to feel. That which you can feel, it is the spirit of the thing that you felt. I'll repeat. That which you can feel, it is the spirit of that which you felt. I feel amazing. Therefore, by feeling amazing, guess what? The feeling of being amazing is the spirit of the amazing state. And so for me to feel amazing, I must have a break of a smile on my face. If you feel miserable, the feeling of misery is the spirit of being miserable. And so therefore, your face and your life as a whole will express or will resemble that which you felt, consistent with his state. So that's why Jesus said, those who come to my Father must come in spirit. So we've defined spirit is the feeling that you acquire. Whatever that feeling is the spirit. So when you go before, when you're sitting quietly, because that animating power is within you, when you're sitting quietly and they may say, life sucks. It's miserable today. It is hard today. What do you feel excited? You don't. You suddenly change the animating power to reflect that which you feel. So he says, those who comes to my Father must come in spirit and in truth. When you look at the word truth, truth means that which you can remember. In fact, in the scriptures, Jesus talked about this concept of the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. However you have perceived or come to understand the Holy Spirit, but this is the center of what it means. And he tells us this Holy Spirit is the Spirit of truth. And he calls it the Spirit of remembrance. The ability to remember a thing is an expression of the truth. Truth is only truth because it's memorable. It's rememberable. I remember yesterday I was at the park. I remember yesterday me and my wife went for walk. I remember. That's the truth. I am not lying. I can say I'm telling you the truth because I remember that which I am saying. Whether I'm remembering on how it happened, it have no relevance to the fact. Truth is not a fact. Most people confuse the two. Truth is not the fact. Truth is how I choose to remember. I can choose to remember a thing different from how it happened. Try it. If you argue with me, try it. Just choose, and you've been doing this all the time. Many times you argue, for instance, people in a relationship, they went and did something that within the content of the relationship is prohibited. They come back and say, I didn't do it. I'm telling you the truth, I didn't do it. They choose to remember it differently from how it happened. That's the fact. So when Jesus said you must come in spirit and in truth, he says you got the way you feel, you have to remember that which you are feeling. So remember I said spirit. So when you feel something, you are actually, so the feeling is the spirit of the thing you felt. So the thing you felt is the thing you must remember. So if I say, let's take an example. If I say, I'm feeling happy, and I just leave it that way, there will be no expression in my face. I am feeling happy. But if I remember what happiness is, whether it is something I've experienced in the past, or it is something that I've seen it somewhere. So I can borrow that which I've seen and remember it and attach to the feeling I'm saying. Suddenly it changes the mood. That is the principle that allows you to align yourself with the very animating power. You have called it God. You have called it Allah. You have called it the universe. You might have called it in many names. But that is how you align yourself with it, where you become the thing you want to be in thoughts and in feeling. And so therefore you feel and remember the thing you're feeling in order to animate life about the thing itself within yourself. And when you do that, you have come to that feeling. You have come to that animating power. And the animating power, its job is to forever animate, create, produce, enhance. But if you go with the feeling says, I am feeling miserable, and you remember what happened that brought you the statement of feeling miserable. Maybe something happened earlier in the day. You're like, man, I'm feeling miserable. The way they treated me, you're not going to feel good about it. And what are you doing? You are aligning yourself with this animating power consistent with the feeling awakened, arose, or the feeling you entertain. And for that reason, you are creating consistent with the way you feel and remember. So you can see we've come a whole cycle here. The reason God knowledge is important is not because of God. He doesn't care whether you know him, you acknowledge him, you cursed him. It makes no difference. How many times you have gone to the power and turned on the electricity and maybe the light doesn't go up and you say, this stupid electricity. It doesn't care whether you call it stupid. Electricity will continuously function consistent with its nature. You call this stupid, this electricity is so stupid. Call it whatever you want to call it. The F word, the M, whatever you call the electricity, it will not change its nature. It will not be intimidated. It will always perform that which is called to perform. And so it is true about God. Your disagreement, your quarreling with others and yourself does not change the nature of God. But your understanding the principle that governs God, guess what? You can use them as I've laid out to change and transform your life. Many, many times I found myself in a place that things doesn't seem to work. I call the right people, I speak the right words, I do everything else, and people say, if you do this, and I apply that, and nothing works because there was no alignment. The alignment between the thought, how I feel and what I remember. Today, if I'm disappointed, it's very easy to remember the disappointment when I try to do the same thing. And if I remember the disappointment, I'm going to feel disappointed. And since I'm going to feel disappointed, I'm going to be a disappointment in the issue in question. So the cycle continues. Your life seems to be broken, not because you're a broken person. It is simply because you had not understood the principle that governs God. And therefore, today you have that knowledge. So in summary, we can say God exists not because we argue about him, but because life itself is the proof of it. And life demands such. Whether we acknowledge it or not, it doesn't offend God. And anybody who tells you otherwise, they're lying because they don't know God. They speak of this, I don't know what kind of a being they're speaking to. God is never offended by your position. Because God consistently creates regardless of the position you take, but he's always creating life, expressing life through you, consistent with the position you take in your life. If you take a position that life is miserable, so therefore God will express misery through you, because God is prideful of creation. That's what he creates. Good or bad, he creates. But he doesn't create independent of us. He creates with us. And the spirit you come to, the memory you bring with, becomes the image that he is constantly creating. So when he says, let's create man in our own image, it is not something that happened billion years ago. It is something that happens now. And you, as you're sitting there, you are constantly creating consistent with that image. I'm asking you to give it a try. If your life matters and the things you want to experience in life are of great value to you, wouldn't you try and see if what I'm talking, and I'm daring you to test. I'm not asking you to go and jump into the roof somewhere, out from the roof somewhere. No, just take a moment, relax. Forget about what is happening around you. And there's so much is happening. And every time we jump into this conversation, we jump into that conversation, we're trying to debate this, we're trying to debate that, we are creating more chaos because we are aligning ourselves with those debates, with those chaos. We are thinking, I'm proving the other person wrong. I am showing them who I am. But who is showing? I am the one who is having those emotional arguments within myself. I have found people who tend to do that. They are miserable, not because they are bad people. They are miserable because they keep creating misery. They're the one who creates chaos in their own lives. And understanding this allows you to take a deep breath and say, is my life where I want to be? Is what I'm experiencing today? That's what I'm asking you to do. When you're done watching this, just take a moment. Just take a moment. Just stop scrolling. You have scrolled so many times. What has that done to your life? Has it add value? Are you a better person today because you keep scrolling and watch so many things? Or can you take a moment and say, okay, let me just practice this? So take a moment. Count from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just relax. And when you get to 1, just Ask yourself quietly. You don't need to write. You don't need to talk to anybody. Is what I'm experiencing consistent with what I want to experience? Am I feeling joyful? Because Jesus said, come to my house in thanksgiving, as he's referencing to God. So in an essence, God, or the writer of the scriptures, are teaching us how to create joyfully. And we do so by coming to the house of God in thanksgiving. It's not a building. He said, you are the very temple of the Spirit of God. So you, by quieting yourself, you are coming to the house of God and you're questioning yourself. Am I thankful for the life I have? My bills are piling up. I am fighting with people every day. I am confused with life. I am pulled in every direction. I am not happy with myself. Can I really be thankful for that? And if the answer is no, you got to move to the next question. If the answer is yes, keep doing that. But if the answer is no, you got to go to the next one, which is to apply my 3I framework, where you start by idealizing the thing you want to experience, the feeling you want to have, and say, so if I'm feeling confused, if I'm feeling frustrated, what is the opposite of it? Feeling at peace, at ease, with a smile on my face, feeling relaxed. If that's what you're looking for, so therefore you have idealized relaxation, at ease, peace, joyfulness, success, financial freedom. Those are the things you've idealized. The next step now is to introduce. You have to acquire the identity of the thing you have. In the scriptures, Jesus said, give and it shall be given. That is the principle of life. You can never have anything in life without giving. I remember one time my teacher said, guess what, Alpha? It was my economical class teacher. I gotta do something here quick. I apologize. Yeah. So my teacher had said in economical class, he said, there's no free meal. There's a cost to each and every meal. You might go and told you gotta come to the shelter, but you have to come on this day. Or food shelf. You better come in this day. When you come here, you can only, so there's limitations. That limitation is the cost. It's the price you have to pay. There is effort you gotta put. That's the principle of life. And Jesus said, give and it shall be given. You give in spirit and in truth. I don't care how much you've given to your church, to your mosque, to the people, to the organizations, but that which you give in spirit and in truth, equal measure will be given back to you. That's the principle. Once you know that principle, then you're going to introduce to yourself the thing you want to give by declaring yourself to be the person you want. I am feeling at ease. But how do you feel it? You remember and you feel it. You remember how it feels to be happy. You remember how it feels to be the thing you want to be. Before you can be, you must be. Before you can become, you must be. However you want to put that statement, but it still remain the fundamental truth. Give and it shall be given. Once you do so, my last piece of that platform is called iterate. You repeat it until the identity you are pursuing after becomes the natural identity you feel within yourself. And in that manner, you've aligned your life consistent with your goal. And God's work is to put it together, shake it over, press it down, and overflow into your life. I hope you found this information useful. And know when you walk out of this conversation, you know something about God, something that you can utilize it to further enhance the quality of life you have. This conversation had nothing to do with the name of God, but it had everything to do with how can you improve your life and become a better person. Not because not a better person, I'm not talking about a person who's doing this and that. A better person is a person who lives consistent with their interest. In an essence, they're honoring God's plan, purpose for their lives. It's not any grandeur plan that you want to be happy, so therefore you are happy. You are a better person. You are better than anybody who gives everything else but miserable in the heart and they go and cry at night. You want to be able just to pay your bills and feel excited and travel the world. You are a better person because you are doing that. And that's what I mean about better person. You want a better relationship because it makes you feel something about it. Guess what? When you have that, you are a better person because you have that which you are seeking to. You once admire, you once wanted to have it, and now you have it, you're a better person. So go and be a better person by applying the very principle that we talked about. If there's any question about this conversation, even if you do not agree with me, feel free to comment. And I would be more than happy to engage in providing you additional insight or just have a conversation with you. And maybe next time you might be the guest, we can actually have a meaningful conversation together. So comment down, let me know that you want to do that, and I'll be more than happy because this is what it's all about. And for that, I want to say thank you for each and every one of them. Whether you just browse for a second, for a minute, for a period of time, I want to tell you that I appreciate for making, because it takes me time to prepare for this. And when somebody comes and we share, it's a beautiful thing. They said a meal is not the best meal if it's eaten alone. I can have all the knowledge and understanding and all the excitement of what I am experiencing through this knowledge. But if I cannot share with others and to see their lives get better because of that, it's meaningless. So I'm sharing with you because I have tried it on my own life. I have lived it, and I'm continuously living every day. And I take great joy and pride because I see changes from what I used to be to who I am today. I've been there, and every day I'm evolving because of the information I shared with you. Not because I'm built for it, because I make a commitment to apply it. So with that note, I want to say thank you. And I want to let you know that your life is worth more than what has been revealed to you. They lied to you when they told you you cannot have it. They lied to you when you say you cannot qualify for it. They lied to you when they told you it's not enough. That what you are not enough in that, whatever that might be. You are more than enough. You are an amazing person. Your life is worthy living, and you can live more than it. And you should go for it. You are more than qualified to experience better than the best you've ever experienced. I know you're the most beautiful person. If somebody told you otherwise, do not believe them. Do not remember their words. Instead, remember what I'm telling you. You are a beautiful human being. I don't care what the mirror have told you. I don't care what the weight have told you, the weight thing that have told you. I don't care what others have said. But you are the most beautiful, amazing person. And a whole lot of beautiful life is awaiting your arrival. But it doesn't happen magically. It awaits for you a step where you recognize and become as I've laid it out. As I said, if you need more information, I'll be more than happy to share that with you and guide you through that journey, because life is beautiful because you are beautiful. Until then, thank you again, and I appreciate your time.